Hello and welcome to another episode of The Second Take. I am your host for this episode. Once again, it's Pastor TK. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And if this is not your first time, you know the drill. Please share, like, subscribe, and pass it on to your loved ones so they can also be able to partake in what we have in store for today. And once again, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be able to uh, be in your presence and be able to share something that is uh, on our hearts, on my heart, specifically with this episode and with every other episode that we've done. And today we're strictly speaking about, are we missing it? Are we missing it? And what are we talking about? What are we missing? It's something that, and pardon my voice, I do have a bit of a cold, but in Jesus' name, it will be it'll all be a thing of the past. But as we were talking about, what are we missing? So basically, how this came about, I was watching this. It wasn't a podcast per se. It was more of a clip from a podcast, and it was this. I think he's a motivational speaker, um, and he was pretty much talking. Actually, let me do this. Let me just see if I can play the clip. Uh, Basically, he was talking about temptation, in the first temptation, actually. And you know what? Let me just roll the clip. Let me roll the clip. It's more understandable that way, and it will make more sense if I am to share in his words, and then we'll take it from there. All right. It's not giving me options. What's taking place here? All right. So basically, this man was talking about how the first sin in the Bible was actually about lack, because even though they had everything in the Garden of Eden, Eve went ahead and listened to the serpent. In the end, ended up going to the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and ended up, being cast out of the Garden of Eden. And even though they had abundance, they went for lack. They went for the thing that they didn't have, and assumed that what they didn't have is more important than what they do have. And which brings us to where we are today. Because that sin, being the first sin, is what got them cast out of the garden and came short of God's glory, and henceforth why we have sin in the world in general. And so, that being said, we are in a place where, according to his sort of interpretation of what that meant, I'm going to play the clip now.
The world was the temptation to focus on lack and disregard abundance. I did not put it in the Bible. It was in there when I woke up this morning. That was the very first temptation in the history of the world. Focus on lack. Do you understand? The tree of knowledge of good and evil was in the middle of the garden. God does not waste words. Humans do that. The fact that it was in the middle of the garden is significant to the story. Why? What does it tell us? That Adam and Eve had to walk past all of their abundance to get to the thing they lacked. No, I don't want any pecans. I don't want any pears. I don't want any apples. I don't want any oranges. I don't want any tangerines. If I can just get to the thing that's missing. Focus. Why does Satan want us to focus on lack? Because he's the God of lack. God, little g, of lack. First temptation.
Okay, so that was that short clip that kind of took me down this rabbit hole of asking a lot of questions, and saying, you know what, God, this is true of even our own lives and how we kind of live our lives since then, where we focus on the things that are unnecessary in order to fulfill the one thing that needs the opposite of what we chase, the opposite of where we end up. And therefore, what God tries to show us in His Word is just that we chase incorrectly, we seek incorrectly, we go for what is not supposed to be, just so we fulfill the one thing that only God can fulfill. In this world, as we're going to delve deeper into this, we've always been, governed by people's perceptions of us. We need social validation. Um, we succumb to some of these forces and these pressures that seem like the norm. So in even when, like, before we even had social media or streaming and all these things, we still had social pressures. Like, people that lived through the 20s, 30s, 40s, ask your grandparents, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, that in society there was something about social pressure that just seemed to take over our existence, because we were kind of accountable to each other in society. And therefore, we end up, with the advent of social media, we end up in a worse position, because that pressure is added on because of visibility, the ability of people to now be able to share all these things quicker and more candid and more uncut. We now know what happens in people's houses without even asking for it. We now know what goes on in people's relationships. We all now know about people's behaviors and characters. We can now scrutinize people and break them down without their knowledge, just because people's lives are out there now, you know. And so that in itself is kind of dangerous to begin with, because it's giving precedence to judgment, unwarranted. And besides judgment, it puts pressure on not only the people that are exposing their lives, but the people that are seeing some of these lives that might be manufactured or not. But it kind of puts that unnecessary pressure on people who want to now live up to a certain figment. And hence, we search for the things that we don't have and neglect the things that we do have. And so, where we are now, and I'm talking about, you can think about it as maybe the extreme cases where people are clout chasing and doing all sorts of things on social media, or just, people in general who just want to emulate their favorite people, or the people they admire, or the people they desire to be like. And therefore, people end up going out of their way to do certain things, even to an extent, spending money they don't have to get things that they don't need, and be like people they will never be like, or be like people that aren't what they say they are. And so we are now in this strange timeline where people are engaging in certain
You got a
unscrupulous
lot of attention.
behaviors, and doing certain things that are questionable, simply for clout or what they believe is purpose, what they believe is what they're supposed to do, or what they believe society expects them to do, what they believe society expects them to be. I'm just going to play you something that I found very strange, intriguing, but quite strange. And obviously you have your own thoughts on this, but I was quite, surprised and perturbed because I didn't know. Anyway, just watch.
For a video that you didn't want to go out, but it went out, right?
No, that's not true.
What happened?
So what happened was I was just being famous, and one of my viewers reposted the clip.
What do you mean you were just being famous? How do you be famous?
I guess just being like gorgeous, beautiful, amazing, talented, and just a celebrity, you know?
So you're gorgeous,
Beautiful, amazing, and
talented, and a celebrity?
Yeah.
And how do you define famous?
Me. I knew I was born famous, a superstar.
And if you
Shut up.
No, hold on. Seriously, I'm trying to figure this out so I know. You're famous in whose other than yours, whose eyes are you famous in?
The globe.
Do you think that this is modeling bad behavior for like really young people?
It's easy to go viral. You just have to make sure you're not going to get arrested.
And we're not like telling other people to do it.
You say you want to inspire LGBTQ kids, right? Yeah. And you want to inspire them how?
Well, basically, I want to build the platform first, and I'll kind of do anything it takes to get there. But I just want to show people that there is someone out there like them, and you can kind of be crazy and still be LGBTQ and a good person.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do y'all's families think about you doing these stunts, these pranks?
Personally, mine don't love it, but it's not going to stop me because it's getting me somewhere, obviously.
Right. How about you?
I mean, I don't talk to my family.
Why not?
They're irrelevant.
They're irrelevant?
None of them have followers. If they got followers or got rich, I'd probably talk to them again.
Now, hang on a minute. Did you just say I don't talk to my family because they don't have followers?
If they had followers, they'd be here right now.
You talking about your mother?
I mean, my mom has more followers than my sister.
It's your mother. What difference she make? What do you care if she has followers or not? It's your mother.
Can anyone tell me like what I would talk to my mom about if she's not going to be making me relevant?
Yeah, like, hi, Mom.
Now I have a career and I'm famous. Like, that's what happens when you get famous. You cut people off.
Seriously?
I mean, everyone's upset with it, maybe because you guys aren't relevant either, so you don't understand.
Scum bunnies. You're just scum bunnies. Maybe I'm out of sync, I guess, because I didn't know you till today. And if you got to wear no, I'm not trying to. No. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just not in the big. I'm not big on.
I get it.
You know,
because all these people already knew me, right?
But I mean, I've had the same secretary for 45 years. I've had the same accountant for 45 years. I've had people that have been in my life. I don't cut people off.
Well, you were famous. You're Dr. Phil, so you didn't need to.
Well, not 45 years ago.
He's big-headed. He just likes to cut people off for fun. He's ruined a few of my relationships as well.
You know what I found? It's the bigger the star, the smaller the ego.
I don't have an ego.
Yeah. So, where to even begin? It's quite interesting. not interesting in like a positive way, interesting in a disturbing way, where you kind of wonder if this is a representation of where the next generation is headed. It kind of, you know, like I don't know about you, but I kind of have a fear of how much of us being selfish is going to permeate into society, how much of us just looking out for ourselves is going to be the backbone of today's society, because it seems like now all that's important is what people see as opposed to what people know. It's what people choose to believe instead of what actually is. It's what people want to be bigger than what the actual truth is, or what actually enriches the soul, what advances society. And yes, we might be talking about it like it's, the all be all end all, but obviously, we have a different world that's out there that's productive, and industries are not stopped by social media. Manufacturing isn't stopped, mining isn't stopped by social media, and all these things. But at the end of the day, it will take a certain length of time before this is just a reflection of our society, let me put it that way. I showed you the videos because this is just a fraction of who people have become, and not just younger people. It's now even permeated into maybe a generation before this one, where people have, I'll give an example. Right now, I know some people my age who will choose to seclude and exclude themselves from a certain amount of visibility, simply because the people that they used to be acquainted with don't fit into what they deem their social circles, or what they believe is where their lives are headed. And fair enough, if it's for a positive reason, if you're cutting off certain negative influences on yourself and your family, so be it. But there's certain reasons that are beyond the positive, that people are doing certain things or are behaving in a certain way. It could be some things gotten to their heads, they feel basically selfishness. There's a culture now of every man for himself. That's so prevalent in society, and it's so opposite of what God intended. As you heard in that clip we played earlier, that's what the devil wants. He wants lack in every single facet of our lives, whether it be financial, whether it be relationship wise. He doesn't like unity. So he will separate people come what may, whether it's families, brothers from sisters, mothers from daughters, sons from fathers, you name it, spouses. And that's one of his biggest ones. He will make sure that as a couple, you do not have unity. You do not progress as a unit. You do not think as a unit. You don't make decisions for the unit. And therefore, it's only a matter of time. And that example is an example that even relates to our society, that as long as there's no unity, as long as it's one man for himself and God for us all, it's going to implode sooner than we expect. And we're seeing it now. These were just examples to kind of give you a picture. And so people are now concentrated more on what they believe is the end result of their efforts. So, you know, we seek or we search for the one thing that we believe we need, as opposed to what is needed of us. What I mean by that is, again, we've said this, I think now I've said it in almost every episode, that our mandate is to be like Christ. And because we ought to be like Christ, we are messengers, we are preachers of the gospel, we are soldiers who are fighting for the kingdom. And our mandate, our sole mandate, is to have souls brought to the kingdom. That is our mission, that is our goal, that is why we are here on this earth, until the word is preached to every corner of this world. And so obviously the devil will fight that. And he knows that with human beings, he's had experience, 6-something thousand years of experience, where he knows how to dupe us, how to distract us, how to make us focus on the wrong things. Because he did it the first time and he saw that it works. And he's just been improving that. He's just been improving that strategy. His system is growing and adapting every single day. And therefore, we have to be weary of who we are and what we are meant for, what our purpose is. Going back to what we were talking about people, it's like we're more concerned with the destination than the journey. And yet, even when Jesus was on this earth, he could have simply come down as Jesus, you know, as the fully grown man Jesus, and just done what he needed to do. You know, eradicated sin, took it upon his shoulders, gone to hell, taken the keys away, come back up, ascended to heaven, done deal, right? But why did he have to get carried in the womb, get born, survive or live all those years, even got baptized when he was older, when he was about to start his mission? He was even teaching when he was 12 and so on. But the whole journey, we won't get into the whole gospel, right? But the whole journey that he went through up until he ascended to heaven, it's not a mistake. God didn't just do that for no reason. He had to go through the journey. He had to understand or live through our experiences, our lives for us, so that we understand that, oh, the same thing I'm going through, he might have actually gone through. But he stuck to his guns. He went back to heaven with no sin on his body except ours. He took ours. Every stripe that was on his body, it represented all of our sins, right? And so who am I, or what do I have? What can I do that's greater than the greatest sacrifice, that's greater than the greatest display of love that has ever been made? And yet he could simply have said, you know what? I don't want to do this. This is too hard. They're not worth it, because I know they're going to fall again and again. They're going to falter again and again. And so, but he did it anyway. He came down knowing full well what was going to happen to him. But what he knew more, what was more important, is the end result. That he had to endure the journey. He had to do everything that he did for the disciples as well, so that they could see from, no one has ever thought of, or I haven't seen anywhere where they speak about the 3 years that Jesus was with the disciples, you know, like in depth. I know we've got movies and documentaries and all that, but I haven't come across one where it breaks down each thing that happened in each of those years or each of those weeks. But Reason being, imagine everything that those disciples had to see, not just the 12, but everyone else that followed him around. Because it wasn't like he just moved with the 12 every time. Every time he went to a city, he would come out with more and more disciples, right? And people that were listening to his word, the sermons on the mount, and so on. And so there were so many people that were touched by a physical example of who God was, because he was there in the flesh. He was there representing the kingdom in the flesh and doing what he was meant to do in the flesh and showing the disciples how it's done in the flesh. And by the end of his existence on this earth, meaning even by the time he ascended, the disciples had the tools. They now knew that if they were to go out into the world, they had everything they needed, right? They had the full armor. So why did I mention this? It's important because we can do it. It's important because we should do it. It's the same sort of, we have everything we need in him, right? We have everything we need. All this seeking for the things that we actually don't have is what leads us to being in a place where we shouldn't be. Because when seeking the things we should have, when seeking the things we do need, we end up with things that we do need to get to where we need to be. So it's more important to enjoy the journey than to fixate on the destination. If your destination is to get wealth, if your destination is to be rich, the unfortunate thing is that as long as there are no principles, morals, anything in between, you will fixate on the result rather than what you need to get there. So you're going to do everything you want, everything you can in order to get to the goal. And so I'm just going to play a clip which kind of explains further what I was so eloquently trying to put across. But this is basically what we just talked about. And now, if you listen here.
Yeah, no, totally. I think what a lot of people don't realize is when you're trying to achieve something, it's not about where you end up. It's always about the journey.
Yeah.
It's always about the journey. For me, whenever I make a film, like the start to when the film's finished is the most beautiful part. The part afterwards is boring. And that sounds really bad, but it's just that beauty. Yes, it's the effort, it's the tears, it's the blood.
Yeah.
That's what you remember. You don't remember when the film's released. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you remember everything before that. And it's the same process here. It's like you learn so much from just sitting in your room, just going over a picture over and over again.
Because it is that process going to give you the confidence. Because I believe that like confidence is like a cumulative like experiences where you set your mind to do something and then you actually did it, and then you can actually revisit those experiences and tell yourself like, hey, like I told myself I could do this, I did it, I can do this.
How you gonna know food when you see food? How you gonna know foolishness if you haven't been foolish? Foolishness, it comes with, it's painful because we think we all of that. We got a lot of abilities. We can create. We can send man to the moon. We can be inventors, but we're limited. If I understand that I'm limited, then that's when God takes control and gives me the wisdom that I desire. Humility. Be humble. If you don't understand your purpose, ask God. But ask him in sincerity. What's my purpose, God? Did you ever ask that question? What's my purpose? Why I'm here? What am I meant to do? But sometimes he can't tell us all at once. It might be too much.
In Isaiah 60, verse 1 to 3, I'm sure most of us are familiar with this text. It says, "Arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Arise and shine." So are we missing it? Are we looking at things the wrong way? Are we looking at the wrong lesson? Are we interpreting things incorrectly? Are we using our efforts to do the wrong thing? Ask yourself today and ask God to guide you in the direction that you need to be in order to get to where you're supposed to go to. During this week, I've been questioning a whole lot in terms of, this something related to this particular subject as well, where I'm asking, you know what? The journey is important, right? Is it more important than the destination though? Not too sure, but I'm willing to find out, because oftentimes, the experiences you get in the journey on the way to the destination will teach you way more than when you're holding that thing in your hands. We've often spoken about how athletes will train for 6 months, for a race that will last them 10, 15 seconds, right? They will train for 3 months for a season or a match that will be played once and it lasts 90 minutes, right? So it just goes to show that there's a process that even God was trying to show us from the beginning with Adam and Eve, that he gave them abundance and he forbade them from one thing. But that one thing is what they chased because they didn't have it. Don't chase what you don't have, because you don't know what you don't have. What I mean by that is you don't know it, you don't understand it, which is why you don't have it. God will take you through a journey so that when time comes to have it, you understand its worth and you understand why it is and why you are. So let's be humble. Let's practice patience. Let's be disciplined. Let's have our values about us as we move through life's journey. Let us be principled. Let us chase purpose. And the only way is to see God. Let's listen more. Let's listen more, because he's always speaking. The only time that God is silent is when we close the door. He's never shut the door on us. He's never turned his back on us. We're the ones who do that. But today I'm saying, let's not miss it. Let's not miss it. Let's not look at the things that we have, everything that we're experiencing, even the bad. There's a reason for it. There's a purpose behind everything that happens, and all things work together for the good of those that love him, those who are called according to his purpose. So be the called. Just know that you are. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us today. I pray that you were blessed. We'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget to, go through the channel, whether you're on Facebook, whether you are on our YouTube channel, but just, go through everything that we have. And I'm sure you will be blessed by the content that we have to offer. See you in the next one. Be blessed.